What's up, freaks? It's your boy Marty here to introduce this episode of Tales from the Crypt. Dun, 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 dun. Sat down with a trio. It's a three-person pod. Two from the Zebedee team and one from the Lightning Labs team, all involved in the MintGox gaming tournament company, I guess. The gaming tournament platform. They have a big one coming out December 27th, and they're going to have a big announcement at 3:30 Eastern. So, guys, make sure you go check out that tournament, MintGox. I should tell you who I sat down with. I sat down with Christian, Moss, Simon Cowell, and Desiree Dickerson to talk about all of this. We talked about gaming on the Lightning Network, non-fungible tokens versus integrating Lightning Network into your game, the incentives and perverse incentives that come along with NFTs and trying to make a game-specific token, and why an apolitical agnostic token like Bitcoin via the Lightning Network probably makes the most sense, and a bunch of other things. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one, and it was brought to you by our good friends at the motherfucking Cash App. Cash App. They're helping you stack sats, send sats, sell sats if you so please. You can also receive sats on the app. We're saying sats because they've officially made sats the standard. You could make sats the standard your own before, but now they're just foregoing that, saying, hey, sats are the standard on the app. What are sats, you may be asking? For any of you new to this podcast, new to Bitcoin, new to the Cash App, sats is short for Satoshis, and a Satoshi is the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. There are 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin. You get 100 million sats, you have one whole Bitcoin. You don't have to buy fractions of a Bitcoin anymore. You can stack whole sats. This is huge. On top of that, Cash App last week added a Bitcoin boost. I've used it twice already and have gotten sats back. You initiate the Bitcoin boost, and you get up to 5% back. I believe there's a $7.50 limit on the amount of sats you can stack on the boost at any given point in time, but it's there. Use it. Stack sats as many ways as you can when you're spending using your boost card, which is accepted anywhere that Visa is accepted. You could be stacking sats as well. On top of that, you can stack slivers of stonks if you want to. It's available. You can buy as little as $1 of a stonk. Cash App could be your bank account. They're offering account numbers and routing numbers for you freaks. So go check all this out. Download the Cash App today. And when you do, use the code STACKINGSATS. That's STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Owls Lacrosse. Stack those sats. Stack those sats. Stack those sats. And enjoy this episode. How do you like my whispering?
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. Your boy Marty Bent here. Friday afternoon, East Coast time. One guest is on the East Coast with me. Two are in England, so a few hours ahead. 5 hours ahead. Or 6 hours ahead now. What is it now that we had daylight savings?
5, I think.
It's 5, yeah.
It's dark anyway.
6 o'clock.
We're sitting down with a team from Zebedee. We've got ladies first, Desiree Dickerson, Christian Moss, and Simon Cowell. We're here to talk about the Lightning Network, gaming, MintGox, what the hell's going on, why should we use Lightning over NFTs. So I think we're going to start this conversation. I think if you freaks have been listening to this podcast for quite a while, actually had Andre Neves on the show in 2018, which is crazy to think it was that long ago. And that was back when he was at Koala Studios, which eventually rolled into Zebedee. Is that correct?
Kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Andre did.
Yeah, Andre's rolling in, and so
Koala himself is a river now, isn't he?
I think so, yeah. And so that's like the last time we talked about gaming over the Lightning Network here on TFTC. You guys have been putting on tournaments on the weekends, building games, having people from all over the world join these tournaments and basically compete to win sats. So I guess let's start with the inception of Zebedee, the particular games you're working on, and then we'll get into the tournaments that you have this Sunday and then a week from this Sunday as well. So I don't know who wants to jump in first. It's the first 4-person podcast in quite a while.
The Des is from Lightning Labs, not Zebedee.
Yeah. Yeah, because I love the Zebedee folks. I am still Lightning Labs.
You have a Zebedee.
So very much there.
Email, though. Did I send the invite?
No, that's yeah. No. I'm at Lightning Labs, but I do love Zebedee very much, and that's why we work on the MintGox stuff together. But yeah, I mean, Simon or Chris is best to like get off and
I thought you were doing dual roles. Like I know you're at Lightning Labs. All right. I thought for certain.
She's just the covert plant that starts.
I suppose that's more about, we have MintGox, which is like a collaboration between Zebedee, Desiree, like Sunday Games.
Yeah. So MintGox is like, we can talk about like the inception and how MintGox kind of came about.
Yeah, see that. No, I'm checking now. I sent it to your Gmail, Desiree. I'm completely wrong. For some reason, I thought I sent it to a Zebedee email. Yeah, let's get into it.
So Zebedee was something that. I mean, me, Chris, and Andre, the co-founders, and we all kind of had similar ideas of this independently. And I was at Bitstamp, and the Bitstamp guys are really, really Bitcoin heavy and have been and really into gaming. That was their background. So they let me incubate this idea of Zebedee, which is, okay, let's take Bitcoin and make it the payment infrastructure for gaming. Blockchain gaming, and we can talk about this later, but blockchain gaming had a whole thing, and it's really failed because like the games like are not great, and who wants NFTs and who wants like specific gaming tokens? So we thought, okay, like Bitcoin is the global interoperable digital value. If we just create the infrastructure to enable people to like game developers to plug it in, then it'll open up a whole new world. Right? And what we're not trying to do is pump like our own asset. We're trying to pump Bitcoin. So I put that that plan together, and I got like Chris was like someone I knew from like 2014, I think, when he's like the OG of Bitcoin games. I was playing Saratobi, and then Andre, obviously he was probably like the most highly recommended Bitcoin and Lightning engineer who could like operate in gaming as well. So we spun out and formed that about a year ago now. And it's been really cool. I think we've built all the products out, and we can talk about that. But we've built the infrastructure for game developers, and we've also built our own Bitcoin wallet. And it's not just to have another Bitcoin wallet out there. It's a gaming companion, so it has a seamless UX, so you can really integrate with the games in a deep way and use it as your fun wallet, not your kind of main spending wallet. And again, we can go into that in more detail. But that's kind of like the background on how we got started. The fun thing about Chris is that everyone thinks he's Japanese, and I had never met Chris before. Like I only knew him as Mandel Duck, and I knew he was based in Tokyo. So we planned to meet up at Bitcoin 2019, and I was going to try and like pitch him to join, and he was there, and he won the gaming hackathon there. And when I met him, I was expecting to meet this Japanese guy, and then in turns this like 6'4" bald guy from the north of England. So that was quite fun.
Yeah,
the middle of England. It's only the north to people down south.
Yeah.
I've got questions about your time in Japan, because you're in the woods in Japan, right? Yeah.
In the woods?
Is that? I'm getting my Bitcoiners mixed up.
You're thinking of Wiz? Maybe.
I'm thinking of Wiz. But I like the way you guys are framing Zebedee too, is payments platforms for virtual worlds and building dev stack, or excuse me, a stack of tools for devs so that they can integrate Bitcoin into this stuff. And
it should be the enabler. That's the whole point. Like we're working on like enabling the application layer. There's loads of people doing great work on the infrastructure, and like if we can make it easy for anyone to plug in and use Bitcoin, then it should open up a whole like amazing world. Like, I mean, if you think about it, like there's Bitcoin's virtual global programmable currency, and the best place to use it is in virtual programmable worlds. And the reason like crypto and gaming hasn't picked up so far is because it's people trying to like pump their own token, which like no one wants.
Sorry,
but, like,
Samson.
But I think we can like move on to then talk about MintGox, because like MintGox has really proven that this works. Like when COVID hit, it disrupted our plans to like go around conferences and show off the games that Chris had made and show it works. So we just like I can't remember how it happened, but like us and Des was involved. We were like, should we just like start our own esports tournament and see what happens? And then like again, the name MintGox kind of came from nowhere as well. I can't remember how you got involved, Des. Like what was the conversation?
I don't even remember what we were on a call for. I can't remember, but I mean, I've personally just been interested in this use case from the perspective of Lightning Labs, because obviously, I mean, Marty, I listened to your very long podcast with Ryan. So Ryan and I work very, very closely together. And so, he and I, along with Elizabeth and the rest of the team, think a lot about like, how do we grow the network? How do we bring on new users? And so gaming has always been interesting to me, because I think it's just kind of like, to me, it's such an obvious on-ramp to bring people not only to Lightning, but, just to Bitcoin. Like people are coming to play these games who have never, ever touched Bitcoin before, never really thought about, but it's so easy. It's even easier than earning Bitcoin, because you're actually having fun. Lightning through gaming. And so that it just became a pet project, like a pet interest of mine. So I don't know, we were like randomly on a call. I had hosted a gaming panel at the Lightning conference last year and was hoping to like, do some like Lightning gaming talks at MCC that was planned earlier this year. And so I was just interested. And then for whatever reason, Simon and I were on the same call, and we just got to talking about it. And we're like, okay, like the momentum shouldn't stop. We need a way for people to like see what's going on in this growing ecosystem. And that's kind of how the first MintGox got created. And then there was just so much demand. We just keep
the cool thing
growing
is
and growing and growing. And we all obviously have full-time things that we're doing. But the people want more. So we're kind of just like
people, it makes,
we're just building and putting it out there. So it's definitely being created in response to what people want to see.
And why it's different from just like, paying to buy skins and stuff that you do with games at the moment. But we've like over the past, so our 10th event will be next month. And we built up a community of 1,000 people like that are doing this. And it's like, it just keeps growing. And we've also attracted sponsorship money. So now we're starting to give away like 10 million sats per event, which we will do next event. Like that's what's there to be given away. And we've got more money to like give even more away. Like people are, see this is like the way to get the next user and the next type of activity. Because like not everyone wants to be a trader, not everyone wants to be an investor. Like and not everyone wants to I suppose everyone wants to like buy stuff with Bitcoin, like use other great stuff like Fold and Bitrefill and stuff like that. But this is something completely different. Like you can just turn up, have fun, and come away at the end with some money, some real money.
So Desiree referenced the conversation I had with Ryan Gentry, and I think for the Lightning Network specifically, it's from where like it's not, I don't want to say the Lightning Network's intentions, but the market's intentions of what the Lightning Network use case or the use case of the Lightning Network would sort of fulfill, mainly payments, micro payments at that, for like little mechanical Turk things, doesn't seem to have really manifested. Like people want to hodl, and paying like small amounts of money via the Lightning Network isn't really appeasing to everything. But this year, particularly with the stuff that you guys are working on than the stuff that I've been playing around with on the Sphinx Chat with the podcasting stuff. It seems like the Lightning Network is stumbling into maybe non-obvious use cases, gaming being one of the biggest opportunities, and especially when you consider that's all like a lot of like the big trends in tech and stuff, like esports going to take over the world, multi-billion, eventually $1 trillion market. And it just makes a lot of sense that the Bitcoin world and the gaming world would collide, and the fact that it can do so in this fashion is fascinating, because again, these tournaments, I think I just saw a 16-year-old win like a $3 million tournament for Fortnite the other week. Like, yeah, it's insane. And like to think, like of these worlds merging makes a lot of sense. So I guess the point I'm trying to get to is just observationally, you guys are following this, obviously, is like, are any of the gamers starting to look at this and see like, oh wow, I can make sats. Like I may not win that $3 million prize eventually. Maybe there is a $3 million prize denominated in sats, but just making small amounts of money. Like, do you see gamers getting into
our gamers in MintGox are definitely they have that in mind. Like they have the idea that they may be only winning like a few $100 of prizes now, but then if they hodl, they kind of think that you're going to have like a story they tell their grandkids. Yeah, I got my millions from playing MintGox. So I think they see the appeal. Like I think so I've been doing like Bitcoin and gaming like since I guess 2013, 14. I think a lot of the kind of the energy that was in like Bitcoin and gaming kind of got like drained by the whole scaling issue, and everybody then went over to ETH and other blockchains because it was like, well, what can we do? There's no solution on the table, and they weren't, Lightning Network wasn't out there. So I think a lot of the energy and especially the market in a way has gone that way. But I think now we have the Lightning Network, and MintGox is showing kind of that hey, it's possible now. I think we're going to start to see that energy coming back. So yeah, I think I would get the word out.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I think that what we've been doing at MintGox has proved it, and then once people see it, they're like, "Holy shit, this makes sense." And I can, like, from the position that I am and the people that I'm like talking to, like in our network and in the gaming network, is that in the next 3 to 6 months we're going to be seeing mainstream like tournament gamers and players like doing this stuff. Like it's gonna, like, the next 6 months is going to be really like fun and eye-opening.
That seems like a pivotal tipping point for this, is once you get those mainstream guys that are on Twitch and talking shit.
Yeah. Well, we already saw like a couple of people who are active on the MintGox Discord who also just stream on Twitch other games, putting their like Zebedee like static QR codes in their Twitch profiles. So people were like tipping them to play other games. Like this guy was like screaming at the top of his head. He was like, "Oh my God, I'm like winning Bitcoin." He was like freaking out. It was amazing. I just kept sending him stats because it was hilarious. But yeah, I think it's also interesting because it's not just like, oh, the top person wins Bitcoin or however much. Like Chris is like kind of like playing around with these like cool incentive mechanisms where like in Bitcoin Rally, which is like Mario Kart, you can pick up Satoshis in the game, like coins. You can choose to either like hold those and like cash out at the end of the game, or you can choose to like launch them at your opponents and try and get ahead of them and win. Or in like, I think Chris, you were saying that you were seeing folks who were just like, they weren't even concerned with winning. They were just going around like trying to stack sats in the app because they didn't think they were going to win, but they still wanted to like stack some sats. So there's some really cool things that Chris is playing around with.
But I got like 500 sats or something. They're kind of happy in a way. Yeah, it definitely play with the incentive models for sure.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity to take a step back and dive into the actual mechanics. Like you're mentioning somebody putting a Zebedee QR code on another game on Twitch. Like what is the user experience like when they get onboarded to a game produced by Zebedee, or when they're entering a MintGox tournament?
Well, the great thing is that you can just turn up as a no coiner and not be onboarded, and you can play the games and stack sats. because the games are supposed to be fun anyway, and it's only when you get to like the end of the game, it's like, oh, I've earned some sats in this game. Now I can download a wallet and take them out. That's the really cool thing. There's just no onboarding process whatsoever. It's only once you're incentivized to do it, then you take part. And then once you're on board, as you say, you got like, there's a whole like suite of products. Like you can take your Zebedee QR code, and like if you're streaming another game, you can put that on your stream and try and get tips, or you can like integrate it into another game and stuff. So it's just seamless. Like go to zbd.gg and download your game. We're hoping to make it even more seamless in the future, so that there's not even any like QR codes and scanning and stuff. You can just like log into a Zebedee integrated game and with your gamer tag, and then you can just make transactions from your wallet without like scanning QR codes.
Yeah, so you're like in COD, like you're like buying the weapons and stuff like that. It'll just be like that experience, but there's actually the Lightning Network.
Yeah, exactly.
Tied into it. And Des, you mentioned like cashing out and stuff like that. So do you have like off ramps to fiat, or how does that work? Like when you say cash out, do you just mean move their sats off of the platform into their own wallet?
Yeah, well, I think what we're talking about here is when we say cash out, is that you have it in Bitcoin. I mean, our belief is that where we're going, we won't need fiat. So this is purely just Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So you then use it to spend in other games, hodl, or spend elsewhere. There will be on and off ramps. And there's stuff. Next year there'll be developments where you can have more of this interoperability. But right now we're focused on like pure just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, like, we can create these circular economies in games where it's not like for me, like any like sats that I stack in Saratobi or just like Sat Stacker, these are just like fun advanced play games. Like I just use those directly to like drop power-ups in the game. So when you go to mintgox.com, like there's a streaming dashboard where you can watch the game. So I'll watch Bitcoin Rally, and then I'll just scan the QR code on the dashboard just sitting here, and I can drop power-ups directly in the game, or with Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, which is like a first-person shooter. Like I can just send some sats to increase the bounty on certain players' heads and kind of influence the game. So it's cool that we're like breaking that fourth wall between the person who's watching, and also like they can interact directly with the game, which is really not happening anywhere else. So that's like that's really cool. So ideally, like I'm winning sats and I'm using those sats in games, and then at some point, we want to make it very easy to like buy things in the game. Obviously esports funded by sponsors or advertisements. So if people could use the sats that they're winning in the game, they can purchase from those advertisers.
No, that's what I was going to say. You mentioned Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, and I've been advertising on that since it launched. It's such a seamless integration too. So easy. Just put a JPEG and pay a couple invoices. I check once a week, try to make sure we're topped up and getting TFTC throughout the game. But again, the many different ways that the stuff can be monetized, and at a microtransaction level, like I pay like a quarter. Pay like a quarter worth of sats every week for an advertisement in a game. Like I don't think the gaming industry even understands that. Like in-game advertisements coming enabled. Yeah,
it's so like direct to consumer as well. Like it's, I mean, some of the sponsors we're working with, like they're starting to really see that. Like you can directly interact with the person and they see that value. So the next step is going to be like instead of just billboards, you get like sponsored power up, so who's giving you that Bitcoin. Like there's a little box with like TFTC on it, and there's some sats in it, and you run over and you get that. That'll be pretty cool. But going back to one point you made about the new things the Lightning Network can enable. Like in our last event, we had 10,000 transactions over a 2-hour period. Like that is an insane amount of transaction activity that's only enabled by microtransaction in the Lightning Network. And it's not because you're doing anything that you used to do that Bitcoin's now replacing, like buying a coffee, stuff like large transactions. It's these little things like collecting coins on a track, like shooting someone else getting their sats, or the audience being part of the game and sending sats to like interact with the game. It's just like the connectedness and the energy is insane. It's like you're not just watching a game, you're now part of it through Bitcoin.
Yeah, and again, for an industry that's so big and like one of the biggest trends in the world right now, like it seems like I know Black Swan event is used.
Yeah,
and ad nauseum.
Yeah. I say the things that make me sound crazy, like gaming is the biggest entertainment industry, like bigger than movies and music combined. Like I think that because like it's not defined by any physical limits, I like to think that within my lifetime, like the gaming industry, virtual worlds will be bigger than the real economy, like the amount of activity that's happening. That's
pretty heady. We'll go to what's the movie I'm thinking of? Ready Player One. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, you could do like a Ready Player One. Like Ready Player One would have been a perfect movie if it incorporated Bitcoin. Like they were finding private keys and.
Yeah, we do have a plan to do a kind of Ready Player One style treasure hunt, kind of in MintGox, like hide these kind of clues across the games, and people can jump in and like try and find the clues, and there's like some big Bitcoin treasure hunt or something. So.
We have one new sponsor who wants to put some significant money into that. So watch out next year for Chris's Ready Player One challenge.
Mm-hmm. What's the? Have you guys seen an inflow of developers around this? Like, are the game devs getting excited about this stuff? Because that's the other thing. Like, it could help these indie game developers monetize. Correct.
So that's in a way. Originally, like the start of this year, we had big plans to go around to all the gaming conferences, and I think game devs don't really know about it, so we were going to kind of showcase it to them at all like the major, places like Tokyo Game Show or Pocket Gamer, but all the things got cancelled. So we kind of pivoted to MintGox, and we're kind of we're user focused at the moment. We want to build the community, and then we got something great to show the game devs, right? I think if you go to game devs now and show them like a simple casual Bitcoin Lightning game, like they're great, stuff like Bitcoin Bounce, the Thunder Games game, but it's not necessarily going to wow some of the publishers. So I think when I will definitely kind of next year, once we have like kind of these larger grand tournaments with the decent games we're rolling out, I think we're definitely going to start to get some attention. But I think this goes back to my previous point. A lot of the game devs we speak to, I think they've kind of been, I think consensus has been speaking to them first, and it's, I think a lot of that energy has kind of gone into the more blockchainy kind of NFT, make your own token kind of space. And I think a lot of them, like most people in a way, like most people heard about Bitcoin, very few people have actually heard of the Lightning Network. And when I speak to game devs, I get a lot of, well, like Bitcoin, didn't you have a scaling issue? Like, yeah, kind of thing. But now we can actually kind of show, like, I think Simon and I, it was a few months back, but we went to a kind of blockchain gaming meetup in Manchester in England. And a lot of people were showcasing their games, and they were kind of nice looking games, but they were quite cumbersome and confusing. Well, first you download MetaMask, and then you get some ETH, and then you get this NFT, and then, and they couldn't really demo it at the time, like at the conference. But Simon and I, at the time, we had this Street Fighter style game. Reiki, yes.
Yeah.
So we kind of just got people playing that, and the audience could just kind of like send some sats into the game to drop power-ups for them. And I think it was a bit of an eye opener that how easy it was and how it works now, kind of thing.
Yeah, people in the audience had Blue Wallet and they could just play. Whereas with the blockchain games, it was just like, okay, here's some future complicated thing you might be able to do.
And then transaction
or
something.
Let's dissect this a little bit. Let's compare the two, the user experience. Like again, it just seems like a clunky download MetaMask, get some ETH, get the CRC20 token.
And you have to be like invested. you have to be invested in a new gaming economy where those NFTs are going to be worth something because you work for them. And like, it's so hard to make a game succeed. It's just like to have an economy that's going to support that NFT and the in-game token. Like, it's just like that. It just doesn't work. Like, you spend all these years developing the game, and then it just like you have to pay people to like play it. It's just it's just a bit tragic. Whereas with like what we're trying to do is like you add Bitcoin to an existing game. We don't need to develop the games, and it just makes that game even more fun. And it's
the whole conversation of, do you develop your own network effect or piggyback on another network effect that has other utility outside of gaming?
We just want to get another tool to give game developers to help them make great games, rather than trying to reinvent the gaming industry ourselves and turn it into an investment industry, which is not. I think like the concept of adding to existing games is really powerful, and like I would encourage everyone to like attend like MintGox 10, simply because we have this new unveil of like a new gaming experience and a new Zebedee integration, which I think will like be a real eye opener.
This is a tournament on the 27th?
On the 27th, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to reveal something that's been a bit hush-hush, but I think it'll kind of illustrate what we're talking about. And I think once people see that, it's going to just be like the light bulb should go off in people's heads and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. This is easy. You know, it's not rocket science.
Because like...
This is the announcement of the announcement. Okay?
Yeah, the announcement of the announcement. Because what I'd say is like, Chris is right that we talk to game devs and they're like, okay, I kind of get this. But when I've been telling them about this integration that we're doing, then they get it. Like the light bulb goes on and it really resonates. And then they start to get excited. So yeah, we don't want to give away too much right now, but yeah, like it's called like the secret integration on the agenda. It's like a 3:30 EST, I think. So yeah, definitely follow that.
Mark your calendars, freaks. This is
and you'll get free sats, so it's two incentives.
All right, yeah, and that's
yeah.
We saw Hot Girl Meg giving out sats yesterday.
Oh my god, I'm so depressed that I didn't get any Bitcoin Meg sats.
I had like a side conversation with some friends in the Bitcoin world. They're like, "Do you really respond to that? You shameless freak." I was like, "Yeah, actually, I remember like not taking advantage of the Bitcoin faucets from like 7 years ago, and I really regret that. And 7 years from now, I will regret not tweeting at Hot Girl Meg for some sats. So yes, I am shameless. So likewise, I'm probably going to show up to MintGox for some free sats now too. And it's what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so mechanically or on the back end, like infrastructure wise, how are you guys setting up your nodes and channel management? How does that work on the back end with these games? Is it like a
That's a question for Chris.
Very involved process? Is it set it and forget it? Do the users have to think about it at all?
So if you're a player, you don't have to think about anything. You can basically pick any Lightning wallet and just play the games, right? And if you're a game developer, so I guess I should clarify that Zebedee, we kind of took the decision early on, a little bit based on my experience in Bitcoin and blockchain gaming over the few years. Like we didn't necessarily want to build our own games because we prefer to kind of build the tools and work with, a real game developer to kind of make a decent game. So we actually are more focused on building tools for other game developers. So as far as they're concerned, like we kind of handle all the complicated node routing aspect of it. So we have an SDK for like the most popular game engine, and all they need is an API key. Having said that, if you are kind of a bit more of a hardcore Bitcoiner, our SDK also links with BTC Pay Server, so you kind of can run your own node. But I guess we're more focusing on at the moment is targeting the game studios who are they want to focus on making the game and they just want all the Lightning stuff to work. So on our back end, yeah, like Andre, the CTO, is the person to go into the specifics, But yeah, we have a pretty decent system with a few nodes, and a few, mainly using LND, but we also have looking into other implementations for kind of redundancy. Yeah.
No, well, the reason I ask is because this actually leads to a very interesting point for the Lightning Network in general. Like, a lot of people think routing nodes are going to centralize around people providing financial services, but the incentive to facilitate in-game usage of this will just naturally provide other players in this routing game, bigger hubs with different use cases in different industries, which I think is a blind spot for how a lot of people view the Lightning Network and how it will evolve and who will facilitate. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just all the Wall Street's going to come in and take up all the routing. But again, the utility provided for podcasting, for gaming, will present different routing node operators than people think right now, I believe. Could be wrong, but do you see that? I think so too.
Obviously you might have nodes which are more specified to like larger payments, but they take a bigger fee. But then there's nodes which are specified to more microtransactions in games, which maybe there's less hops and it's more direct, but maybe it's slightly more centralized. But you're sending like a cent payment in a game, so it doesn't matter that it's super, I guess, decentralized, right? It's so I think you'll probably see these different kind of topographies
these like sub-networks evolve.
And then it's going to be, it's going to be more. Like there's like a lot of, all nodes could be private, but there's going to be ones which I like have a reputation for protecting your privacy more, right? So I think it's just going to be like different strokes for different folks for different industries, for sure.
Justin O'Brien on our team is like always like coming up with these crazy conspiracy theories that like there's secret forces like working to like take over like and make these like sub networks.
Conspiracy theories on this podcast.
Things. He's like the ancient aliens guy. I'm sorry, Justin, if you're listening.
LM Big is the CIA. We gotta figure out. We don't have to figure out who LM Big is. I don't give a shit. But
I think
it is.
Bitcoin development kind of keeps those things in mind when people develop software for Bitcoin, right? Even if these are crazy, that's what we kind of build for. We assume that that's happening or it's going to happen to some extent, right? Which is why we have the philosophy of run your own node and this kind of stuff. So I think it's just good engineering rather than a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So how do you guys think this changes the gaming industry for better or for worse? Like, is there a potential that adding this in-game financial incentive sort of perturbs the reason people game today? Does it make it better? Does it open up the possibilities? Does it give the incumbents a run for their money as indie gamers can actually compete and monetize?
I think that's exactly it. Like, I think you're going to have indie gamers. It gives them like a new competitive advantage to get new users for the new things that they add. And like ultimately it'll help like people like Epic like take on like because you can have your own payment system where you can like start to monetize and like slowly cut it. Then you can say we don't need Apple. Like I think that's the path, and then the big studios will kind of catch on. If the indie studios start to make money, then the big studios will catch on and start to like transform what they do. That's my view from the conversations I've had.
Yeah, I think like the big studios, in a way, they generally can't do something that's risky because legally, they're often like, they have a commitment to shareholders, right? So if something hasn't proven to kind of work, they can't actually kind of roll it out in the products. But the privately owned indie game studios, they can take the risk, and once they start to make a profit, then the big studios can go to the shareholders. Yep, we can do this now. It's kind of been proven. But yeah, I kind of think I did a presentation on this at the Lightning conference. Where I kind of think it's people say it's like going to revolutionize game. I kind of think it brings gaming back to what it was or what it should be. Like I kind of went a bit philosophical in the presentation, but kind of pointing out that before digital games, people always kind of played games and spice it up a bit with a bit of like cash or value transfer, right? It was kind of like the human nature, when I was a kid and we used to play board games, we'd always like use whatever we put our pocket money in there, or we'd use our candy. And thousands of years ago, cards and chess. It was all people played not for money, but they often played with a bit of money or a lot. And I think once digital games came out, you couldn't really do that because the internet, it wasn't around. But when Nintendo or Atari started to make games, they couldn't they could take quarters from the player, but they couldn't. It was difficult to have coins that could go between players. So they kind of kept that in an iconic form where they had the Mario coin, and Mario would get the coins, and that was always assumed that games and coins, they make sense, but they couldn't actually make those coins or sats, right? And then the internet,
Zelda and rubies.
Exactly. It's just you can kind of see it's hiding in there, right? And it existed in games before, and they put it in the game kind of in the UI and the UX, but they couldn't actually make it physical. And then the whole gaming and internet got taken over by in-app purchases and all these kind of walled gardens. But now we have Lightning and Bitcoin. I think it just makes sense just to connect the Mario coins to Bitcoin, right? It's just take it back to where it was. So I think a lot of it is just going to be quite simple and kind of just bringing gaming back to what it should be. But then on top of that, I think there's an extra layer of new things and new innovations and new ways of gameplay that we haven't even thought of, like bots competing and earning money for you and all these kind of things. So I think that's the interesting thing. But yeah, a lot of it is just kind of what gaming should be. I think it's going to be possible finally.
Yeah.
Like Chris's talk, I still remember at the Lightning conference, was very inspiring. When he talked about kind of the origin of the social aspect of gaming and how how money has always been a part of that. And so I feel this is just happening at the right time. I mean, gaming is becoming such a social platform. People are living their lives on games, especially now with COVID and everyone being totally remote. People are starting to transition their actual social activities to games. And so, and I think Sphinx and Paul over at Sphinx Chat is doing an awesome job of reintegrating the transfer of value within social interactions. I mean, look at the success of WeChat. So I think this social aspect in gaming is going to alongside Bitcoin is going to collide to this ultimate social experiment. We're all kind of just living and transacting in games. That's my view of the future, what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a youth anymore. I'm an old man now. With a child. But isn't it crazy? Aren't all the kids isn't that where they hang out? Instead of meeting at the park, they meet at Fortnite, and there's like all these social hierarchies between tweeners and teenagers that are budding, and just the whole new way of interacting. Like you were saying, Simon, the digital economy in the gaming world may be bigger than the
people don't understand this is how people interact and socialize. You go on adventures and quests with your friends in a game. You're investing, it's not just something fun you play by yourself. You're investing all this time and effort with your friends and your reputation in the games. People just don't understand that wave that's coming with in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of a social change. And what we're because I try and play games with my nephews and nieces who are from 6 to 12. And I remember playing Fortnite with my nephew, and he'd be we'd be running around, and he'd be telling me oh, here's you call all the other players kids that you're trying to kill, because it's usually kids in the game. There's all these just codes and behaviors that they built up in the game that's really cool and interesting. It's also embarrassing to just get owned by 6-year-olds in a game, but as a 30-something guy. But I just wanted to go back to something you said about financial incentives in games. Does that make it not fun? And as well as what Chris said, using sats are the perfect unit to use in a game, because they're one sat has very little value, but it has some value. and it just kind of spices it up. So it feels like instead of using like dollars and cents, which just like takes it away, and then you start to like get into gambling. This is just like, it just has a bit of value, and it doesn't get to the point where you're gambling. It's just like you earn some points that guess what, are worth something outside of the game.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, and if the price of Bitcoin appreciates, like a lot of people think it will, you could even bump that down to millisats, right?
Yeah.
Are you taking advantage of millisats already, or?
API uses millisats as a base amount, so it's possible to definitely make games with millisats. But yeah,
we're future-proofing it.
Yeah, right. You got to think of that, right? One day we may hit sat cent parity, so got to prepare for that
sooner than we think.
All right. Well, we'll hope. But yeah, it's interesting. As somebody who's been away from the gaming world for quite some time, like I'm having flashbacks to playing Halo in high school and just cursing people out. Like, is there a way to like financially, like, I don't want to say, like, to punish people for like bad behavior in these gaming worlds? Because isn't that like a big problem as well, like bullying in the gaming world?
Yeah, well, I suppose, I mean, if you're in a game and you're like, the admin kicks you out, then maybe you like lose whatever money you've got in. So there's like a financial incentive not to be like a
little
That's
dickhead.
What we should do with the chat bot. Like, we should have Andre make it so, like, because I always get blocked if I use curse words on like the MintGox. Like, it won't let me send, and so I feel like it should just like subtract some sats or something, like
a swear box bot.
Yeah, no, because you mentioned playing with your nephew, and I'm just thinking like being 12 years old and screaming at like 25-year-olds, like cursing because my parents weren't in the room. It's gaming's such a. I haven't gamed in quite a while though. That's what
I think you're about to start again. Like spectator the next MintGox, and you'll start playing some games.
I know. Well, I think I'm going to treat myself to a Mac Mini too. I can't game right now just because I don't have a console, and my laptop's like 8 years old at this point. But I hear the Mac Mini is like a good computer for gaming.
You gotta try Saratobi, like Chris's like game where you're like a monkey and you like swing around with these bananas. It's like insanely addicting, like on your phone. It's amazing. Like I'm horrible at it, but
I thought everything was desktop at this point.
Yeah, I mean, most of the game. Well, no, we do have some like Chris has mobile games, but most stuff is desktop, and even like games you can play in the browser. You don't need a big machine. I mean, I actually made myself like a big gaming rig. Like I built a Grin miner a couple of years ago. Like got an awesome GPU.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, so that I did that for a couple of months, and then I just like I've got this GPU now. I'm going to make like a gaming rig and got a VR headset, but I don't even need it for the games. It's like too powerful.
Okay. Yeah, and so let's talk about some of the games you guys have built. We talked about Raikou.
Yeah, well, I guess like it kind of started from actually Raikou is actually I think it was inspired from your show a little bit. I remember I was listening to your show. I think you were talking to Lightning Caller or something, and you were talking about Street Fighter game, and I thought, I'll make that, and I made it as a demo for Bitcoin 2019 conference. We had like a Lightning hackathon, so that was one of the prototypes I entered. But yeah, like we basically it's a bit. Originally, we started to build like these sample games, that were mainly for the purpose to show like developers and help developers build games. But then like MintGox suddenly happened, so we had to kind of make these games playable online. So that's why Raikou was like a Street Fighter style game where you choose a character and two people fight. And, as they're punching each other, they're basically taking sats from each other. And then we expanded it so the audience can like scan a QR code and like drop power-ups for the players to get to boost their health, stuff like this. However, that type of game, two-player fighting games don't really work online just because of lag. If you have two people and one person has lag and the other person it really messes it up. So we basically kind of quickly developed Bitcoin Rally, which is Mario Kart with Lightning in, because that works a lot better. Lag's not so much an issue in a racing game because there are other players, but ultimately you're kind of racing against yourself, right? Like how fast can you complete the track? So that's the kind of game we're focusing on for MintGox, mainly at the moment, to kind of used to do the tournaments and stuff like this. Yeah, but we also have like a
Donna Labs Bitcoin Bounty Hunt's really awesome as well.
Yeah, Bitcoin Bounty Hunt's pretty cool. Yeah.
And then you have like all those old games like pre-COVID. So like there's that one Cypher.
Yeah, we made
like a Pokemon Go style game. We made it, or Chris made it for Bitcoin 2019, and then the conference got cancelled. But that's really cool. Yeah, they were asking about that actually. Do you want to revive it for Bitcoin 2021? That was cool. Why don't you talk about that?
Well, yeah. So I actually, back in 2013, 14, 15, I had a couple of like popular-ish Bitcoin games. So one was Saratobi, and the other one was a game called Takara. So Takara was like a Bitcoin geocaching. I actually got drunk at like a Bitcoin meetup once. And do you know...
Tends to happen.
Do you know very expensive beers, I think it was now, but when you're drunk and you kind of think you see coins on the floor, do you know what I mean? And it's just like rubbish or something, or like a party popper. That's how I got, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like there was just like Bitcoin on the floor? And then I was actually speaking to the guys from Bread Wallet at the time when they were Bitcoin Wallet. And they were like, yeah, I was speaking with them, and they were the sponsors for the game, I think, originally. But yeah, it was just like a game where anybody could drop Bitcoin around the world, and you would secure it with like a geolocation specific question. Like, for example, you drop Bitcoin in a bar, and then you go to the bar and you pick it up. But in order to claim it, you would have to say like, well, what's the Wi-Fi password of this bar or something, right? To kind of stop spoofing it. Yes, so that was actually quite popular. I did like a bunch of stuff in Japan with that, a bunch of campaigns, but then it all kind of hit the scaling issue, and it was becoming quite difficult to continue. So when we formed Zebedee, we were building a similar game, which is a bit more Pokemon Go style, but with the Lightning Network. So you would wander around and you would basically hack cypherpunks or something, and then if you hack them, like you get Bitcoin, and these were like based on sponsors. But then like nobody could go outside for a while, so we kind of shelved the game because of COVID. But that's probably a game we'll probably look at bringing back as well. Anybody can just like drop Bitcoin around the world with their like company logo or sponsor, and then people can open the app and go and find it and see the advertisement, get some Bitcoin. Yeah, no,
this is, there was a shitcoin called Geocoin that did exactly that, right? Not with the advertiser, but they would airdrop. And they would like geocache their coin. And this is just like proving the point, like any altcoin thinks of will eventually be ported over to Bitcoin in one of its layers. And and this is in gaming, arguably has been one of the most popular use cases on Bitcoin for quite a while, especially if you consider Satoshi Dice a game, which
I was going to go into that. Like all the gaming was kind of, I think to be fair, I guess in a way all the NFTs were on Bitcoin as well with Counterparty.
Yeah. I have a rare Pepe downstairs.
Yeah, think about all these kids playing like these games like Fortnite and everything. This is just
it was all kind of like taking off there.
They're just like
anybody who was making a game was building on Bitcoin.
They're like
on Counterparty.
Like I think this is mass adoption, where it's like as soon as these games start integrating Bitcoin in some capacity, like all these people are going to onboard. Especially
looking at it thinking like this doesn't solve anything. It's just going to have the
same makes sense to them.
Problem a few years down the line. There's a better way to do this kind of thing. And I was quite lucky because I was like making the games by myself, so I didn't really have any financial like commitments.
Yeah,
but I guess if you start a company and you've got investors,
that's a whole other conversation.
Whatever, you play this game and it's not working, you basically pivot to whatever you can do to try and make that game run. But yeah, it was all on Bitcoin, and I think I said already in the podcast. Now we have the Lightning Network for payments. I think we'll definitely start to see those kind of games coming back, and I think we might start to see game tokens and NFTs coming back for some of the solutions. However, I think there's like a non-technical issue with them. I think they kind of have a strange incentive that
have people who say that, have they even tried? Like I literally am sending sats nonstop. I'm if I literally every day like, in my doing game something, and it works every single time. Like I don't know the last time like I had a failed payment or anything.
I've never gotten the NFT. Even though I have a rare Pepe, it was gifted to me, but like
for how long? Oh, he froze.
People are hot on like the NFT art. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
I think there's something there, but I think it's like an order of magnitude difficult problem to solve. But I think just Bitcoin and gaming is like no brainer. It's much simpler. So I kind of have like a toe in the water about like NFTs and game tokens, but I'm really not interested just now. I think it's to see what happens and what's the best way to do it. But yeah,
it's very overly complex. Like building this economies where each individual item's its own asset with value that you've got to try and price. Like there's just going to like 99% of NFTs will be worthless. Like
right.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to administer that yourself.
Like I was around like a bunch of my friends and like peers made NFT games, and the problem is like I've seen it time and time again. You make these tokens in your game and you make them rare, and people buy them, and then once they don't start to make money on your token that you made, then they get quite litigious and angry, and then your incentives as a game company come around. Well, we need to kind of pump our token because all the users are getting annoyed that this token they bought isn't worth anything, and so I think then you kind of go into this like death spiral with your game. Yeah. That's what I've kind of seen personally, and then you stop focusing on making the game you want, and you start focusing on kind of hyping up your token to try and keep happy you invested, and then somebody buys them all and then dumps them and messes up the market, and it's a very difficult problem to solve. I think
that's the other thing. Like the first people come is investors come in, like like crypto investors and small VCs, and then you have to try and incentivize a way to get gamers to play the game to actually create economy and create people who want to use it. Whereas Bitcoin's already done that; it has value and people want it. So like, just start there. The ultimate point about the games that we're building is that like Chris has done some like great like demo games that show what it is that you can do with Bitcoin, but we're as we keep saying, we're focused on just like enabling Bitcoin for all the existing games out there. That's our market, and that's why we're building stuff so that games with tens of millions of active users can have Bitcoin in them, and that's what we're going to see next year.
Is Lightning Network ready for this? I guess that's the next question. Have we scaled enough? You don't know. You don't know until you try it out, right?
It's more ready than base layer was. That's all.
I mean, you're talking to one of the biggest Lightning Network bulls out there. I fucking love the Lightning Network. I use it literally every day, either receiving, sending, streaming payments. I like where the Lightning Network is personally compared to what a lot of people are still calling it vaporware. It's like you don't even know.
I haven't had a failed payment for.
He'll come back here in a second.
I kind of think the people who say that, like, what other crypto are they using that's working? Like, what are they doing with the X token? Is it just probably just trading or investing, right? Are they using any applications? Maybe.
I doubt it. Yeah. No, they're just hoping their bags pump, usually. Simon, we lost you when you were talking about your lack of failed payments recently.
Yeah, no, I was just reinforcing what Des said, that I haven't had any failed payments for about 2 years, when I was like running my own node experimentally and trying to route my own payments through the command line and didn't really know what I was doing. And since then, I've just like, it just works. Like, it just works.
And it always feels like magic. Like when I top up my Bitcoin Bounty Hunter ad, it's just like, this is pretty dope. And that's actually getting family and friends who are interested in Bitcoin. That's how I show them, because they know about the podcast. And I'm like, look, I'll buy an ad in this video game for my podcast for $0.25. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, look. And it like blows their mind.
A hangover from when the Lightning Network first came out. So every time I make a payment now, I still kind of scream and oh, it's fine. Just because of, like, the early days. I remember like trying to buy a t-shirt, and I had like 3 different wallets, and I was trying all 3 of them, and then one failed and another one, you know. So I kind of still have this like kind of, but yeah, like it's
Shell shock.
Shell shock, yeah, kind of thing.
It's well, it's crazy. Like Matt and I were actually talking to Rabbit Hole Recap last night. Like our shout outs are $50 worth of sats at a given point in time when somebody pays them. Last 12, 6 have been paid over the Lightning Network. Like first try. Like I can see in BTC Pay Server how many attempts, and it goes through like $50.
What is amazing, like is like in the games that we're talking about, like when the audience is paying to drop power-ups and they pay and then a power-up drops in a game, it's just like instant, and that's like using an external payment system, the Lightning Network. It's just like it's like magic, and it works. And you don't have to rely on anyone. It's so cool, so cool.
Well, and it truly wasn't possible before the Lightning Network, right?
Yeah,
you gotta do that.
I did it in my original games, and then got told off by like Luke Dash Jr. and stuff.
For what? Taking up block space, or?
Yeah, well, that was kind of, yeah. I remember at the time, and like, I was just.
Weren't there like zero transactions, though, were they? Like they weren't instantaneous.
My original, well, yeah, they weren't zero conf, no, but like back in like the early days of Bitcoin, like I guess application making, it was a different time, right? So like, I guess a lot of the hardcore people knew about like waiting for like, kind of 6 confirmations, all this kind of stuff, block reorgs, but kind of if you just had the wallet at the time, you'd just say, yeah, you've got it, right? It's like how the Bitcoin Cash wallet works now, I guess. It's like they just say you've got it, and as soon as the payment's finished, that's kind of what it was like. But I was just like basically just like broadcasting like penny value transactions to the mempool just all the time, just like spraying them out, and it was fine. And then a lot of people were angry at me that I didn't know about because I didn't look at Reddit, and then it stopped being fine, or it stopped to be more expensive, kind of thing. Yeah.
You dust attacking the network over there, Chris?
I guess so.
Shake
Yeah.
my head.
I'm
kidding.
Well, like that was like my first introduction. I got into Bitcoin, like I guess from a gaming point of view. So I was like,
How? Really?
Naive. Well, yeah, I was working for a company in Australia, and I was basically Australia aired the 60 Minutes TV show about a kid who made a lot of money. Like he made an app and he became like a millionaire overnight, kind of thing, like one of those stories. And then like the company just basically was anybody who had an idea after watching this show would come in and pay us like 10, 20 grand, and we'd make their like crappy game. So I made like Angry Bears and Angry Bees and all these kind of things. And I was like making kind of gaming apps at the time. And then I heard about Bitcoin, and I thought, yeah, I'll just kind of put it in a game. That was the first thing I thought about doing. So
Sorry, you can take that.
No, my brother's trying to FaceTime me. It's coming through. I'm sorry. Sorry for that interruption. No, it's something. But it's something like all right, let's finish you getting in via gaming. But I have a point to make when the story's finished. I'm sorry for that interruption.
Finishing then, yeah. I was just kind of said that I think a lot of people who got into Bitcoin, I think in a way, it depends what podcast you were listening to at the time, but it was kind of like sold as like this is the application layer, right? And like even like people like Andreas at the time were saying and everybody's going to, because there's going to be Joey token and all this kind of stuff, and it's like so we all kind of full force building stuff on the base layer. And so I got into game, and then ultimately it didn't work. But now like Lightning Network feels like the application layer that Bitcoin was appeared to be to some people back in like 2012 2013, whatever.
Yeah, it gets to like a point I've been harping, and what Ryan and I discussed when he was on a month ago. Now at this point, like there's an order of operations. At this point, like people are so impatient. Like it's frustrating for me as an outside observer and a user. That like Ethereum, smart contracts, NFTs aren't perfect on Bitcoin yet. Let's go build a whole new chain. And I think having a long-term view about Bitcoin and its layered scaling preference is going to work out. So like I think you guys focus on the ZDK for developers like long term is probably one of the best moves you can make, or SDK, excuse me. Was it the ZDK at one point?
I think someone said call it a ZDK, but we thought that's just confusing for people who like don't know about Lightning. Like
yeah.
LDK.
We're trying to like convert no coiners, so like let's not invent new things.
I do like it though. It is catching up. It's clever.
Yeah, I think Matt might have actually suggested that, like on an RHR when we talked about Zebedee.
Yeah, we'll rebrand it once we're successful.
No, don't rebrand by any means. But again, like the point I'm trying to get to is I think you guys are setting yourself up for long-term success by being patient and building these things out in a way that's not scammy and like trying to bootstrap a network effect with its own token. So like I know we've mentioned like grand plans for gaming, like the virtual world becoming much larger and the virtual economy becoming much larger than the meat space economy. But personally for Zebedee and MintGox, like what do you guys have planned 5-10 years from now? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah, Simon, I don't know. Take it for Zebedee, yeah.
You just go ahead for a minute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, at least from the MintGox side, like I kind of said, we're kind of just building in response to the demand, like what people want to see, we're just trying to build. So it's kind of nice because like the market kind of creates what we're doing. But over the next year, we're just thinking about what we can build for people in the next year. So that's like more esports tournaments, more often, bigger prize pools, just getting more people developing games that we can start featuring in MintGox. We also are, planning to do, once life is back to normal, some in-person esports events. So, hopefully, having some cool announcements around Bitcoin 2021. So if and when that happens, there will be some really cool MintGox and Zebedee stuff at that event, as well as like other gaming stuff. So with MintGox, it's just, we want to get people involved and start getting them onboarded to playing games on Lightning. So just more events. So we'll be at the very least hosting one major event every month for the next year. Also doing like mini tournaments in between, doing qualifiers, hosting like this Lightning Lap thing that maybe Chris can describe, but Marty, it'd be great to get you on there and get you competing against like other Twitter personalities. It would be cool to see.
Don't call me a Twitter personality.
I don't know what it was.
No, I'm kidding. No, I need to get on it. I need to start experimenting with this more.
We'll see it out for sure.
Am I? You can hear me, can you?
Yes.
I'll try and give you my kind of forecast. So from like the Zebedee side, like over the next year, 2 years, we're going to see like Zebedee integrations with some like mainstream games that can be played, like games that are already like insanely popular, and now people are playing them for sats. And then what we're also going to see is this is like beyond trading. This is like going to be the second major application for Bitcoin. So you're going to start to see. Maybe if your bank enables you to use Bitcoin as well as your exchange, they're going to want to start offering their customers access to like Bitcoin and video game services, because that's where people are going to be like, that's where the real economy is going to be, not out there. This is where like kids are going to, this is where like you're going to onboard your next customers, because they're going to be playing and earning a living in virtual worlds.
Mm-hmm. Simon, I think you may overtake the other Simon Cowell, the most famous Simon Cowell on the planet at some point in the future.
Will they?
What's it like sharing a name with that guy?
You get upgraded a lot, which is great when you book like reservations and things. But you have to live with the constant look of disappointment on people's faces when you turn up and they realize their mistake.
I have a cousin. I'm not going to dox myself. I'll tell you when we're finished recording. But similar a cousin and an uncle actually.
Well, the other great thing is like it's so hard to like, my digital footprint is so obscured by him. Like it's cool. Like you can't find anything out about me.
Yeah, it's good for OPSEC.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating. I'm excited for the future of gaming. And freaks, to make it clear, I know I sent a tweet out last night. It was a poor attempt at a joke coming at Cyberpunk 2077. Which seems to have been a huge failure. Why is that game a failure?
I I think for like, I don't know if it is a failure. Like, I mean, I really like her. Like, she's really nice. But as I said, it's really hard to create a game. Like, it's really hard. Like, less than 5 games succeed.
Cyberpunk 2077.
It's a game.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah.
I'm not talking about. No, yeah.
Okay.
What you're thinking of?
Because wasn't it was like highly anticipated, launched recently, and people are like asking for refunds.
Is it a fail? I've been meaning to download it.
It just basically, like, from my understanding, is like, they kind of had deadlines to get it up before Christmas, but like they got disrupted because game dev always takes longer than you think it does, and also like COVID, probably some of the staff, I don't know, couldn't work, and they kind of like it got released a bit buggy. I think the main scandal has been that on consoles, so like certain consoles, the game graphics are like pretty poor. So I think that's why I think Sony has taken it off for like PlayStation and given refunds. But I think like the game itself is good. I'm not sure. Like, it just wants to kind of get a patch that fixes these bugs because it was kind of pushed out a bit too early because a manager said somewhere we have a deadline and the programmers said sure, yeah. Generally what happens, right? That's
what we finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, so I made a poor joke last night in a series of tweets saying, like, why would you waste your money playing video games? And then, like, a few tweets down, when you could be a cyberpunk in real life, make real cyberpunk money. But you can now.
Yeah.
Due to the tools that you guys are building.
Cyberpunk gamer. That's what you're going to be, Marty, on December 27th at MintGox 10.
MintGox 10, big announcement coming, 3:30 Eastern. Let's wrap it up here. Favorite video games outside of Lightning Network enabled games of all time? One or two?
Age of Empires, boring,
I fucked with Age of Empires for a while. Not my favorite though.
Animal Crossing. And also Farmville. I want Chris to build a Lightning enabled Farmville.
Farmville. I haven't been on Facebook in quite a while, but I don't miss the Farmville notifications. That would flood your noties. Chris?
Metal Gear Solid was a big one I used to play. Gran Turismo I used to like. A bunch. Call of Duty I used to play a lot. I think the first game I played was like Monkey Island. It was like one of my kind of childhood game, I suppose.
Yeah. Myself personally, it was Zelda Ocarina of Time and Halo were my 1-2 punch growing up. Yeah. A little Star Fox 64 thrown in there as well. Well, Chris, Des, Simon, thank you for joining us. I learned a lot. I'm going to game more. I hope you freaks know I don't hate gaming or people that do game. It was a bad joke last night. Sent after RHR when we had a couple glasses of whiskey, so it didn't land, obviously. But I really do think what you guys are working on is extremely important. And like I said in the beginning of the episode, it's a use case that is highlighting the power of the Lightning Network and something that wasn't really obvious when the Lightning Network first launched, but it's coming more obvious by the day. These little micro interactions and economies growing in the virtual world, particularly around gaming. Where can we find out more about the tournament next week, what you guys are doing at Zebedee, what you guys are doing personally, what's going on at Lightning Labs? Sorry for that confusion in the beginning.
Oh, it's a lot. I follow MintGox at MintGox on Twitter. And join us on the 27th for MintGox 10. And you can just go stream the whole event from mintgox.com. And on the Lightning Labs front, obviously, follow us on Twitter, but also sign up for the Lightning Lab, which Ryan does an amazing job on. We push out a lot of information on there. Those are my two plugs. If Simon, Chris, you wanna plug?
Yeah,
Zebedee?
let's say go to zbd.gg and download the app, and then join us for MintGox, where you can use it and stack some stats. There's links to it. Like if you go to our Twitter or our website, then there's links to Discord, which is the best place to kind of chat more actively.
Yeah, join the Discord is good. Yeah, just mintgox.com. I'm Mandelduck at Twitter. One thing to point out that MintGox, you can just enjoy it in a browser. It's like a live Twitch stream, and you can play the games, some of the games in the browser as well. So if you go to mintgox.com, it has all the information.
Yes, it's Zebedee.gg. Zebedee.gg.
No. So, so just the letters.
Oh, just letters? Oh,
yeah. So Z, B, and D, the 3 letters. .gg.
ZBD. All right. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
ZBD.gg.
Yeah.
All right. It makes it easier. A lot easier. Throwing in
but now you've said it, we should also have zbd.gg as well to redirect to the same webpage.
Yeah. Or you can go check out what they're working on at zebedee.io too. You can check this out. Gentleman and lady, appreciate your time. Thank you again for forgiving me for my mess up earlier this week. And I look forward to joining you on the 27th. And excited to see what you guys have to drop at 3:30 Eastern on the 27th.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you have a funny story that you were going to dox yourself about? Or?
Yeah, wait, I'm gonna hit.
Oh,
I'm gonna stop the recording, and then when we're done recording, I'll tell you. Peace, love, freaks.